Hey everyone, good morning. And good morning, coffee in hand, ready to learn some snippets. So good. Let me just open this up for our Instagram folks and then get back to the comments. I'm sorry, I'm just a tiny touch late. I was actually ready to go and my one contact was bothering me so much I couldn't stop blinking and squinting weirdly, and so I had to quickly go and take it out and put it back in. So that's the way it goes sometimes. So Anne, we mentioned already. Donna, Melody, beautiful Saturday. Oh, it is here too. The sun is shining. So gorgeous. Maria in Oklahoma. Good. So nice to see you all here. Just going to chat a moment while a few more people have an opportunity to join in. Sound levels okay today for most of you? This seems to be an issue for some every day. Again, I've got it as high as I can go here, and it looks to be good. I'm getting a couple thumbs up. There's my husband Dave tuning in from Bloom 2024. He is doing all the sound today for a women's conference that's happening at our church. About 600 women at a Bloom conference. It's a wonderful thing, and I'm going to nip over there actually right after I get off this live and join in for a bit. Quilt Mom, hi from the Jersey Shore. Sharhan in Bakersfield, California. Janet, Lynn, good. Okay, we've got a fair number on. I think we'll dive into today's topic. So, brief introduction. I'm Susan Smith. You're in my studio, Stitched by Susan. I'm coming to you live every day through the entire month of April. Casual, informal chats about topics relating to machine quilting. Sometimes the long arm, sometimes the sit-down machine, sometimes both, as is the case today. This is all leading up to the re-release of my freehand quilting masterclass, which will be opening for enrollment near the end of this month. And we are in the process of re-recording all of the videos, redoing all of the doodle sheets, etc., and getting that all rebuilt with a fresh new look and hopefully much better, crisper camera quality on the demos. So one of the main new things this year, for those of you who have attended before and for those of you who are new, this will matter. For those who've attended before, all the edits, all the updates will be available to you at the same time. It's going to roll out across the board, and everyone who's ever been a student will get the new version. And for those of you who are newer, the question hands down that I've gotten asked the most is, can I apply these quilting designs at my sit-down machine, whether it's a sit-down long arm or in many cases a domestic sewing machine, because that's what a lot of you quilt at? The answer is a resounding yes. And in the past, I've kind of had to say, yes, I think so, and give why I thought so. But this time around, I've recorded the demos at my domestic sewing machine as well, so that you have the opportunity to watch both. And everybody gets both. You know, because I'm chatting as I do it, I even encourage you to watch both because there's different tips kind of included in both of them. So there's that on the masterclass. And also next Saturday, so a week from today, I'm hosting a free live workshop. So it's going to be longer than these chats and it's a little more planned and scripted. I'm going to be showing a bajillion photographs to you talking about 5 myths that tie freehand quilters in knots and how to break free of them. So the email invitation went out to my newsletter list this morning, and I just realized now as I'm talking to you that I forgot to put the link in the description, so I'll do it right after I get off air. But also be watching my social media posts in the next day or two. There will be a one-word keyword that you can type in there in response to any of those posts to register for that free workshop. Replays will be available in case you can't make it live, but of course live is best because there will be a Q&A session and you can fire questions at me. So that's what I advise. Why is my mouse not working? Here we go. Let's see what we're getting in for thoughts, comments. Sounds good. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, very good. Nobody has any questions yet because I haven't dived into the topic yet. So let's get at it. I want to talk today about something that's kind of dear to my heart. The differences between regulated and unregulated, manual, constant, they all mean the same thing, mode when you're quilting at a machine. Now, interesting story, when I was shopping for my first long arm, which I purchased in 2015, and it was a used one. So I think the first one I bought was I'm thinking it was 1997, something like that. Anyway, it was already quite a few years old. And at that time, when I was looking for used machines, I saw more and more for sale, that quite a few more than I see now that did not have a stitch regulator. So let's talk for a minute about the difference, and then we'll kind of talk about the magic that this is. Regulated mode basically means that you specify to your machine, whether your domestic sewing machine or your long arm, you specify a stitch length. And then the machine reads the speed of your movement, and the motor and consequently the needle movement speed up and slow down to try and achieve that consistent stitch length the same all the time, okay? So it's regulating the stitching, the speed of the stitching. Conversely, manual or unregulated or constant, we sometimes call it, all those words are synonymous, they mean the same thing. That means that your machine is not regulating the stitch length. Instead, you're specifying a speed. This can be expressed different ways. On my current machine, it's expressed as so many stitches per minute, and I can choose that. On my last machine, it was a percentage of the total speed that my machine would go. So I would say, you know, I'm working at 60% or 30 or whatever it was. Yours may be different yet again. Those are the two methods that I know. But you specify the speed of the motor and the speed of the needle, right? They're one and the same. And now stitch length is directly controlled by you and how fast you're either moving the fabric or moving the machine over it, okay? So the constant then refers to absolutely constant speed of the needle. It never changes. So if you move quickly, it will take great galloping stitches. And if you move slowly, it's going to stitch a whole bunch of times in one close place. So that's up to you to control. And it's funny, when I was thinking about this morning and thinking about when I was shopping for my first long arm and how much more common it was to see machines that didn't have the regulated option, I was thinking of cars back in the day, like when I was a teenager and my brothers would pore over the Auto Trader magazines, you know. A lot of the cars would say A/T/C. Do you remember what that is? Air, tilt, and cruise. And you know, you don't see that ever anymore when you see an advertisement for a car, because every car has air, tilt, and cruise anymore that's made in the last, I don't know, 30 or 40 years. Quilting machines are a bit like that. You're not seeing very many anymore that don't have the option of regulated, but it used to be out there. And so if you're acquiring a used machine, be aware of that, and it's something that you want to consider. And I will say, well, let's come back to that in a minute. Let's talk for a minute about why you might choose one over the other. And probably your question is, and I hear this lots, why would you ever not use the regulated mode? Don't you want perfect stitches? Why wouldn't you always use that? Here are my thoughts, and I have a couple reasons why I go back and forth between. And don't get me wrong, the regulation, the help in making that beautiful stitch length is absolutely valuable when you need to focus on other things. When you're quilting with a ruler, for example, it's super helpful. When you're working out a new design, it's super helpful. It's one thing that's done for you, and it's just done right, and that's lovely. And even when you're in a hurry sometimes, great. It's a great, great tool. But when you are, what's the best example of this? When you are stitching something that is curved, for example, there is a distinct drag on the machine, whether you're at the domestic or whether you're at the long arm with handles. As it is working to regulate, as it is speeding up and slowing down, as you get to know your machine, you will feel a distinct amount of drag, of slightly delayed response to what you're doing. And when you go into that constant or manual or unregulated mode, it smooths right out. So there can be reasons for doing this differently. One that I find, and I know lots of quilters do, is when you're quilting small pebbles and bubbles, and you're always turning that corner and it's very small, and it just goes far more smoothly to be in constant mode, and that needle is just bobbing and you're just moving smoothly around those circles, and they turn out more round. They just do. There is something about that. And for myself then, I've taken that quite a bit further, and I've found, well, okay, if it feels smoother when I'm doing tiny pebbles and bubbles, what does it feel like when I'm doing larger, all over edge-to-edge designs like I often quilt? And guess what? It feels a little smoother there too. So I use both. I go back and forth between. I absolutely appreciate stitch regulation. It can be such a handy tool. I love it. But there are certainly some designs that I prefer to do on manual mode. And when I'm quilting a long period of time, like a couple of hours, I also prefer that manual mode, and it's all in my head. But the sound of just the consistent, even speed of the motor to me is more pleasing and relaxing and zen-like, and I kind of get in the groove better than that constant revving and slowing, revving and slowing, revving and slowing. So let's get some comments, and then I have a couple more thoughts. Sound is great. Diana, Donna, Sunny, Winthrop, Washington, Darlene, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. You're way over on the East Coast. Heritage Quilting in Arizona. Angela, watching all of your lives. Wonderful. Melanie in Texas. Kim in Chile, Michigan. Oh, we've got a frozen camera again. Hang on a sec, you guys. I don't always see this right off the bat. I'm just going to unplug so the camera view is going to change. Hang on a sec. Okay. Now you're seeing me on my computer. Now we'll plug the camera back in and we won't have our zoom. I think we've done this before, haven't we? Hang on a sec. Webcam. Bear with me. You're probably getting a look down my shirt. Sorry about that. Okay, we're back on. Oh my goodness. If it's not one thing, it's another. Make sure my cable is all the way in. Well, I hope you guys got some good, good sound clips out of that. Going back through comments. Mona, I bought my long arm because the owner said the regulated mode was not working. Turns out the encoders were not plugged in at all. So happy to get a live today. Gail, you're frozen and look like you're singing. It's astonishing how it almost always catches you in a funny face. So I'm sorry about that, but it happens. Mona, I have a thought about that though. You mentioned the encoders, and viewers may not know what that is. And I don't know how technical I should get because I'm a layperson, let's be honest. But there are several ways for machines reading your movement. And one of them, and probably the most common, is your long arm machine will be on rails, and there will be encoders that are tracking the speed of your movement, literally the movement of the wheels on the rails. Alternatively, there are cameras which do it. That's what I have on my Bernina. So right under my stitch, the stitch plate right under my needle actually has 2 laser cameras in it. And so they're watching the movement of the fabric. So I'm moving my long arm, and therefore the fabric is moving across the cameras, and that's how it is reading the motion. So there may be different methods that I know not of for doing that, but in any event, in some way, when you have stitch regulation, your machine is reading the speed of your movement and responding to that. Oh yeah, you guys are chuckling with me. I sure appreciate it. You can laugh at me too. I'm okay with that. Michelle Phillips talking about the Masterclass. So good. Shyla, does Masterclass show loading the long arm and the Q-matic tutorial? It does not, Shyla, and I'll talk more about this at the tail end of the workshop as well, but since you've asked it today, I will answer it. The Masterclass is very much geared toward quilting designs. So learning a range of designs, learning ways to develop your own designs, learning practice methods, and there's a fair-sized smattering of tools and tips from my studio, but it does not include the preparation, if you will, the loading of the long arm, or even much talk about tension. One of the bonus materials is a little ebook on tension and stitch formation, but that's not part of the full-fledged class. However, I strongly recommend that you go and watch my live and unscripted episodes on YouTube. They're long form because they're usually a live stream of an entire quilted project. But most times you will get to see the whole loading process, and I kind of chatter through it while I do it. And I think I just have one up so far that is a quilt being done on the Q-matic. I'm just zipping past the frozen ones because I think I've got it fixed. As always, I apologize. Just scooting down. Going, going, going. Betty in South Australia, I'm so glad you took the time to join. It's probably an odd hour for you. Gaynor is saying, love the vintage quilt behind you. Is it feed sack fabric? And the answer is I really don't know. The quilt top was given to me, and so I don't know its provenance or its history. It looks like it could be. I would say it's definitely older than the 50s and the 40s, so there could be feed sacks in it. And of course, muslin in the diamonds. Good, good, good. Cindy thought it was her internet. No, it's all me. I'll wear it. Laura, do you have any suggestions for achieving consistency in manual? This leads, Laura, I'm just going to run, that's the end of the questions. I want to talk about this one a little bit. This is a topic that I love, honestly. Tips for consistency. This ties right into one of the reasons that I do enjoy stitching in constant mode. This started when I was attending a long arm quilting class. And Krista Withers was the name of the lady that was teaching, and I don't think she's teaching quilting anymore. But she was doing this kind of mashup of design style of quilting, and you would do these focal, like a feather or a shape, and then between it, you would kind of do nesting boxes, so all straight lines, and that's what the background was, right? So you can kind of picture that. And she encouraged us, and this came as a shocker to me. She's like, turn stitch regulation off when you're doing those straight lines. And just get in the groove of going smoothly and moving smoothly, and you'll find that your boxes will stay more square and your lines will be straighter. That feels so counterintuitive, but I went home on my practice piece and I committed to trying it. And I had like a 30-inch square practice piece. And I committed to staying in the constant mode for the duration. And I did. And it was a little bit magical, I'll be honest with you. It massively improved my smoothness of movement. When you have the stitch regulator on, you lean on it. You do. You whip around corners and you rely on it to do that regulation for you. When you turn it off, you are forced to figure out how to move more smoothly and evenly, and not to pause so long in every corner and not to whip like crazy around the circles, but to keep yourself moving in a constant smooth motion. Likewise, when you're quilting at the domestic machine. So I think that it is a real tool for improving your quilting skill. It is not essential that you use it all the time. It's not better. One is not better or worse than the other. Am I frozen again? No. Anne is asking, would your mod boxes be a good design in manual mode? I'm trying to think if I've done that one in manual mode, Anne. But I would say absolutely try it. I don't think there's a wrong one. Gaynor says encoders are like training wheels on a bicycle. They kind of are, but I also don't really think that stitching in constant mode or manual mode is the goal, is the better way, necessarily. They each have their own place, but I definitely do think that stitching in constant mode helps you become smoother. However, similar training of your mind can be achieved by really listening to the motor speed when you do have the regulator on, and focusing on keeping that motor sound as smooth as you can. Same thing, you're kind of setting some guardrails for yourself and saying, now I'm going to stay within this speed. I'm not going to go really fast and I'm not going to go really slow. I'm going to move smoothly. So either way, those just help you to become a better quilter. Thoughtful quilting. Bernie, watching from the UK. I made another live woohoo. I stitch in regulated cruise mode, but tend to go too fast and get the beep beeping. Any advice on how to slow down? You know, Bernie, I don't have any expert advice, but I would try doing something like putting slower, relaxing music on. Something that will just relax your hurry a little bit and see if that helps a touch. So I think what you're referring to with the beep beeping, Bernie, some may not know this, when you do have a stitch regulator, there's kind of an upper limit of its responsiveness, and it can vary from machine to machine. But if you outstrip that, it literally can't keep up adjusting, and you'll start getting uneven stitches. And my machine flashes red on the screen, but clearly Bernie's goes beep, beep, slow down. So that's your notification. You're going too fast for that stitch regulator to keep up. So that is a limitation with the stitch regulator too. And it varies from machine to machine. It's usually plenty fast enough. It honestly is. Okay, that's all the questions we're getting. Let me tell you once again then about the upcoming workshop. And by the way, if you've loved this lesson, I would love a thumbs up. And if you have an opportunity to share it with your friends, that would be great too, because I am here live every day in the month of April talking about machine quilting topics. So the workshop coming up is next Saturday. If you're on my newsletter, you'll have gotten an invitation this morning. If you're not on my newsletter, there's still time because more invitations will be going out. You can do that easily by just going to my website, stitchedbysusan.com, and you'll get a little pop-up inviting you to give your name and email address. Then you'll get the emails. You do need to register even if you think you can't attend live and want a replay, because your registration is the only way I know you're in that group, and therefore I will send you the replay and send you some reminders, send you the workbook that goes with it, etc., etc. So please do register if you think there's a chance that you'll be able to come. And I really encourage you to catch it live. It's about an hour long. I talk fast, so I try and pack a bunch of teaching into that. The Q&A portion at the end tends to go longer, but of course that's entirely optional. You don't have to stay for all of that. So about an hour of content, and you have the opportunity to ask questions. I'll be talking about the upcoming masterclass at the end of it. And so you have opportunity to ask questions about that or about any of the material that I present in the workshop. It is called 5 Myths That Tie Freehand Quilters in Knots and How to Break Free of Them. These are 5 myths that I've struggled with and that I see wannabe machine quilters struggling with all the time. I mean, it's just by and large, it is the #1 thing that quilters say about free motion quilting. I could never do that because I'm nervous about it. I'm afraid I'll wreck the quilt. And for whatever reason, they're held back. And so I want to kind of bust through that. And I've done that for myself. I've shown, I think I've had over 10,000 students in my free feathers class that lots of you have been in. And I get hundreds and hundreds of comments. Yes, that makes sense. Now I know how to do it, and I can just bust through some of those myths. So this little workshop is 5 myths that I think are super common. And one of them is that it has to be perfect. I'll just give you a heads up. And I'll dispel that one, and I'll show you some examples of how gorgeous freehand quilting can be while not being perfect. So I have lots and lots of photos to show you and things to share in that. So feel free to sign up for that. As soon as we get off air, I will go and tuck the registration link in the description. So if you're watching this on YouTube, look at the description below. There will be a link there for registering. If you're watching it on social media, type the word myth, M-Y-T-H, and a little conversation will start up that will take your registration for you. So that's on Facebook or on Instagram. And if it's YouTube, look for that email in the description within about 5 minutes after I get off air, okay? Any questions, you guys? Thanks, Susan. I registered. Yay, yay, yay. Let's just scroll a little minute more and see if there are actual questions about today's content. Good, good, good. It's looking good. Looking good, looking good. Okay. Thanks you all for joining me, and I will check back with you again tomorrow. Topic is yet to be determined. It'll be a surprise for all of us. See you tomorrow. Have a great day.